episode 5 of Columbus Local Podcast. Starting with a little Comfest video. The music of Cole.
Everything gonna be alright. Even the black of the night won't stop us. We're on the right track now.
A band from Comfest, not too long ago, that is fronted by the one, the only, Jon Coleman, who is joining us on Columbus Local today. Jon, thank you for joining, sir.
Hey, it's my absolute pleasure.
You know, it's my pleasure to have you here. I've been a fan for a long time, Jon. I've personally not seen enough of your projects, but we have run into each other over the years in interesting places. And I think that, you know, currently you have several projects, and if we could place you, Jon, in what you're currently doing, that'd be great.
At the moment, I am playing with Bob Sauls, and Bob and I have been playing music together for probably about 15 years now. So that's always fun. And then my group of sidemen, the Odd Job Millionaires, we have been getting back together again and playing some gigs, so that's been a treat. And then what else? Well, I'm always singing with the jazz band, of course, and then I've been playing with Tom Stillwild and his merry band of vagabonds for the past year or so.
Hop on the Bus, man. That's a good one too. You guys are around town. So that's covers, and you know, the Millionaires. Now that's one I know that I recognized, but what's the name that I just screwed up?
Odd Job Millionaires.
The Odd Job Millionaires. What kind of music are you guys doing?
Good. No, it's everything, man. We're like all sidemen that decided to put a band together and just play whatever we wanted to play. So it's literally country, R&B, rock, rockabilly, blues. Everything's in there. It's crazy.
So you have a set list, or you guys just get up and play?
Oh no, I always have set lists.
So you're prepared.
Yeah, I'm
Gotcha.
a stickler for that.
Nice. I wouldn't doubt that. Wouldn't doubt that at all. So, lots going on with you. Bob Sauls is again. You know that's something you've been doing for 15 years. And if you catch one of those shows, it's really, really deep. I mean, I personally, my music comes from the depths of my soul, and I cut my teeth on the blues, man. So I love that vibe that I get out of Bob Sauls. So,
that's cool.
and it's you on the kit, right? You're playing drums.
Oh yes.
And Bob is just graveling it out, man.
He sounds like an old black man on the Mississippi Delta,
chugging through the canal in the water. But I love it, and I love the I love you on the kit with that project.
He's a great songwriter, and I have to say, when I was diagnosed with MS many years ago, I quit playing drums. And Bob Sauls and Chris Barton would come over and play. I got an electronic drum kit, and they would play music with me in the basement. And ultimately, Bob ended up booking a show with just he and I playing, and he didn't tell me about it.
Now, where was that show?
I can't remember. I think it was like Apollo's or something like that. I honestly can't remember, but he's pretty much responsible for me getting back on stage again.
Oh wow, that is so cool. And it's interesting too how some of these podcasts kind of intertwine with each other. But Chris Barton's coming over next week.
You're kidding me.
No.
Wow.
Maybe you'll have to come back.
That's awesome. I could just like stand behind him and do devil horns the whole time. He's great, man. I love Chris.
I love Chris
to
too.
death.
I do.
And he's been gone for a while. He moved out west, and I missed him. I mean, we used to hang out quite a bit,
That's interesting. Yeah, he's gonna be sitting right where you are.
That's
next
awesome.
Week.
He'll have way
awesome
better stories than I will.
Oh, I don't know about that, but he's definitely got the stories.
Yeah, it is.
He gave me some inside lines, but he is in Columbus now. He's back.
Yes, I heard.
And so we'll see more of Chris, and maybe you guys can get back together again now and then.
Oh, yeah.
Do some fun stuff.
I would love that. He's a good songwriter, too.
He is. And I think, there's a lot of different scenes in Columbus community of live music, local music. Chris is always in his own niche, and I think you're in your own niche. But I think as frontmen, you and Chris are like in my favorites.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I like how you got, and you're both different, but you have your own style and you have your own badassery that comes with the presence on stage, which I admire.
Chris is basically responsible for me starting to sing. Because I went to see a band of his, and I thought, well, if my buddy Chris is singing, why can't I sing? And so he kind of started me doing it.
That's cool to know. That's really cool. Oh man, that's that kind of threw me for a loop.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know you had that connection to Chris. That's cool.
I know almost everybody.
You've played with almost everybody, Jon, which is really cool. You're like the nucleus of all that's happening.
I've been very fortunate to have played with some of the most talented people that we have here in our community.
Yes, and it's great to see you out there. So you do play drums, but I do like when you front bands. And where did you grow up, and where did music come to you, or did you go to it?
I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. My brother, who was 10 years older than I am, had a band, and I was around that quite a bit. I remember when I was like 8, I would put all detergent boxes together and use the cardboard inserts from pants hangers for drumsticks, and that was my first drum set.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, and then a couple years later, my dad actually bought me a junior set of real drums, and that was when I really started getting interested. And I would like take the drums and go out into the woods in front of our house and set up on a pallet and take a boom box, and I'd start playing, and then all the kids in the neighborhood would come out and watch me play. It was hilarious.
Let's go watch Johnny play the drums. That's cool. In Columbus, Ohio, drumming early. It's interesting how music comes to people, and you stuck with it. You stuck with drums.
Yeah. It's a love. It's kind of part of me, and I can't deny it. I really tried to quit, but it just wouldn't let me go.
Right.
And I'm glad it didn't, because I'm pretty sure that is one of the elements that keeps me able to do the things that I do with MS.
Yeah, I can appreciate the challenge, obviously, and keeping your mobility rolling forward.
My neurologist says,
and fighting it.
He said that he wished all of his patients could be drummers, even if they sucked.
Which you don't.
On occasion.
So, when was your first kind of band effort, and what brought you into that?
First band that I was ever in, real band, was called Tenacious when I was in, I think, junior high school. And the bass player was Dave Lorenz from Katie and the Red Hots. So we went to school together, and that was our first band. And we used to rent the shelter house in Wyman Woods to rehearse. And at the time, it was like $20. You had to pay $20 for like a deposit. And if you cleaned the place up, then they gave you the $20 back. So it was a great place to rehearse until there was a rally that they had for the high school one night, and we happened to be rehearsing, and all the kids left the rally to go watch us rehearse, and that was the end of that.
Oh, wow.
They shut us down.
Wow, why ruin a good thing, man? You know?
We moved somewhere else. It couldn't keep us not playing.
Yeah, so where did that take you then?
Then I think we just started taking over our prospective basements.
And playing.
Yeah, and having the neighbors call the police on us then.
So there's different scenes, though, that kind of developed, through, I'm assuming, like, was this during the 70s in Columbus?
That would have been, early 70s on.
Yeah, not to date ourselves. I think we're around the same age bracket, but, that's kind of the prime time, 70s. And Columbus had quite the scene. It was, where were you guys rolling at that point? And some of the other projects, that you kind of
we played a lot of like the first bands played a lot of kegers, and we would do a lot of festivals where we'd be like playing on a flatbed truck or something like that, and then after that kind of progressed to clubs, and we started playing. The first club I think I ever played was called the Rusty Nail, and it was in Hilliard somewhere. And I was so young, I was 16, so I couldn't legally play, so my mom would take me to the gigs so that I could get in bars legally and play gigs.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
She was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't understand why I wanted to be a musician, but she sure as hell was supportive. I mean, really.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds like it. It's good. So were you part of the Alrosa Villa?
A little bit. I was more on the fringe of, because I never really did the metal scene. I kind of missed out on a lot of that because I was already out on the road playing in top 40 lounge bands. So a lot of my friends were really getting into a lot of the metal bands, and I just sort of missed out on that, which is why I'm playing catch up now. I'm really getting into stuff like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and the real heavy stuff like that.
I'm not a real heavy guy either. I kind of did the Police, route of British invasion stuff. The punk era.
That's good stuff era too, though.
Yep, but I got kind of wrapped into that, and then into Life, and then elsewhere. But I can appreciate like not being in that heavy metal, aspect of music, and I wasn't even, for me, involved in playing live until much later in life. But for you, doing the top 40 bands. Where were those venues?
For the top 40 man?
Yeah.
Any hotel across the United States.
Go. Wow. So you were really touring.
Yeah. Well, we played all over the place, and we always joke that our booking agent put a map up on the wall and threw darts at it, and wherever they hit, that's where they sent us. So it was nuts.
That's cool, though.
A lot of those situations, though, were kind of weird because you never knew where you were going to be for a whole week, until you got there. And sometimes it was really cool, and sometimes it wasn't.
Not so cool.
Yeah.
Where's the silliest place you had to stay?
The silliest place was probably a band house in Portsmouth, Ohio, when we were playing what was that club? A place called the Brothers Four. And the doorman was a biker named Snake, who lived in the van behind the club. I'm not making this up. And the band house was a really old house, and it had mice all over the place. So if you put something somewhere, when you picked it up the next day, it probably had like a bunch of places chewed out of it. And so I think that's the silliest, weirdest place that I've ever had to stay when we were a band.
Lucky you didn't have any little nibbles out of yourselves, I guess. Mice. I've seen mice take out a chair or a couch.
Oh man, they can be devastating.
A lot of times in my life.
And food. Forget about it.
There's no trace.
If you leave a candy bar out, it's not yours anymore.
Yeah, well, I want to keep my hand. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So, how far did that take you? I mean, where do you guys went all over the United States?
Yeah, we've traveled a lot, and that was back when every hotel had a lounge, and every lounge hired a band for a week's time. And
that was the scene.
Yeah, that was the scene, and that was pretty cool because you could make some money back then. It's a lot harder now to make a buck.
Yeah, it is. And I was thinking about going out in the 80s then, right? So the 80s kind of had some of the malls and some of the venues, some of the bars and taverns with bands playing on the weekends. And then I remembered that the no smoking law came around everywhere,
yeah.
Right, with the big changes, and that basically kind of changed bars and venues for forever at that point, right?
It did, but there have always been elements that change nightclubs, like the advent of karaoke. That got to be really popular, and it was taking over a lot of spaces that had bands previous to that. DJs are the same sort of thing, so a lot of things have affected the ability to have bands play in certain places.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. It's a changing environment, and the ability to create music and play live, right, is a constant adaptation, right? And you seem to have done that. You seem to be, I think a good example of working in a venue and being acknowledged as, desired performer. So case in point, I've seen your projects and your bands at like Dick's Den. Dick's Den, I think, is good to you.
That's my home away from home.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, John, right? Like, that's a good way, I think, to try to, build that rapport and always have a home, right?
Mm-hmm.
To do a presentation of what your band is performing, right?
Sure.
Side one of an album, or I'm jumping around a little bit. I don't want to get too far out of the gate, but some of your specialty projects, like the Millionaires, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys, you can play wherever you want, in certain places that know that you're known and loved.
Yeah, well, if you convince somebody that you're fun, you can get away with a lot of things, and that's I mean, the Millionaires, their ace in the hole is that we always have a good time no matter what we're doing.
And that's the key, right? Like, you got to have fun.
I think so.
Energy,
or you shouldn't be doing it anymore, really.
Yeah, I'm struggling. I really am. And it's not that I love my bandmates, but my persona is disappearing from me with my older age. It's a struggle.
It's very hard to keep that energy level.
It's a mental anguish for me. It really, I struggle, and I'm reaching a point where, it's going to be a conversation at some point, with myself more than anyone else, because I have great support from my band, but at the same time, I don't want to embarrass anyone,
Well, I think individually we know when the time is up.
Yeah.
You can kind of feel that, but the love is there for so long that even if you're sick, I mean, I endure a lot of crap because of MS, but I'm not going to let that stop me from playing music.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Warren Zevon was dying of cancer, and he was working on his last album, because that's what he was supposed to do. And so I think we just do it as long as we can until we can't do it anymore, and then something tells us that it's time,
Yeah. Or an event.
Yeah.
Collapse.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, what are some of the highlights that you that's a great experience to be able to hit these lobbies and these hotels back in the day, and then come back and kind of have a stronghold and a home away from home here in your hometown. But what are some of the projects that you're always fondly recalling, from your buildup of rapport, buildup of projects that you've been involved in and driving?
There's a lot of them. I mean, I've played in quite a few groups in my lifetime, but I know when I was out on the road with the lounge band, at the time, some buddies of mine were putting a band together. It was a 3-piece pop band, and they were getting attention from MTV and really doing well here in Columbus, and they asked me to join them. And so I went off of the road with the lounge band and started playing with All Points Bulletin. And that was a crazy power pop band that was just, John Baller was the singer and guitarist and writer, and he was incredible, a very prolific writer. And we played a lot of shows at Alrosa Villa. That's what I was thinking about when you asked me about the Alrosa scene. We kind of came in the side door because we were playing with bands like Fairweather. Paul Fairweather would come in and we'd play with them, or the Doors tribute band that played there all the time. I can't remember what the name of them was. So we played Alrosa Villa a lot, but we weren't an Alrosa Villa band necessarily. And Terminal Wally played there a lot, which was crazy because we weren't at all a metal band, but we had a hard enough edge to it where we could get the point across.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome because you just find your way, and when you got something to really say, right? Some of your projects I observe as you having something to say.
Or somebody thinks that I should be saying something. It's really weird. A lot of times, like I'm kind of jumping ahead time-wise, but the Disorder band that does Joy Division, the way that I came into that was it had nothing to do with me. My friend Joe Nelson, who plays drums with me on occasion, called me up and said, John, I have a favor to ask. And I'm like, what's that? And he says, I've got this show coming up in 3 weeks, and we booked it, and I've got the band, but I don't have a singer. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of weird. What band is it? And he said, it's a band called Joy Division. And I'm like, Joe, I couldn't name a Joy Division song if you held a gun to my face. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to check some out on YouTube and I'll call you right back. And I watched 3 videos and I was like, whoa, this stuff is wild. It was totally different than anything I'd ever done.
Is it like, it's 80s, right?
Yeah, it's 80s post-punk, Manchester, England music. And so I was like intrigued enough to say, I called him right back up and said, I'm in. I had no idea how I was going to do it. And I ended up building a teleprompter. It looks like a Yamaha stage wedge, but it's got a 23-inch flat screen TV mounted in the front of it. And that was the way that I did the first Disorder show, because I didn't know all the Joy Division music yet, you know. So, and I still use the teleprompter to this day because I'm old and forget shit.
I know a couple people that have created their own, and I think it's so creative, right? To build your own teleprompter, and then how did it work? Like,
well, I got a hold of a fella that ran a software company called Zaprompt in California, and told him what I was doing, and he was like, "I'm on it." And so he sent me software to use with my computer to run the teleprompter.
That's really sweet.
Yeah,
And it saved the day. It saved the gig. And was it a good gig?
Definitely saved the day. Yeah, the gig was just incredible. The energy was crazy, and I realized something about that particular group. Not everybody knows about them, but the people that do know about them really, really are passionate about that music. And the people that have been in the crowds when we've done shows have come up to me and just poured their hearts out. And I think that it's incredible that music provokes that kind of reaction from people.
It does, and especially with music material like Joy Division, right? Or and I'm gonna bring up another one that I really admire that you do is your first project.
The first, no. And that is a result of the Disorder project, because we were doing a show and this girl came up to me and she said, you know, if you do this stuff, you'd really be good at psychedelic furs. And I'm like, I don't know anything about the psychedelic furs.
But you do, John. You do. I mean, it's just so great. I'm a huge psychedelic furs fan. Huge. But when I saw you guys doing that, I'm like, oh my God, it's so awesome. And you're surrounded yourself. Okay, so she brought that to your attention, but who actually assembled it? Were you the architect of finding the musicians and identifying the material, or was that a group activity?
It was a group activity as far as essentially the band was the core band from Disorder. So Linda Dactyl is an amazing computer and synthesizer programmer. So she came up with all of those tones from the 70s and 80s, like for real. She would stack like 6 pan flutes together, you know, and things like that.
Linda's amazing.
She is incredible. Yes. And then Steve Parakis was playing bass, playing bass, and Steve and I work together on a lot of things. He plays with me in the jazz band, and so that was pretty amazing. And Ben Backert is the guitarist. I don't know if you know Ben, but
I know his name and I know who he is.
Incredibly talented. He's an educator. He does his own solo thing. Just an amazingly and a wonderful human being. I mean, you couldn't find an easier person to work with at all. And then Jared Karen was playing drums. And so we took essentially the people that did Disorder, and I came to them with this idea, and they were like, yeah, sure, why not? So every song that I put on a CD, they learned them, and I researched the heck out of the Butler Brothers and what they were up to, and because I knew nothing about that stuff. And whenever I do something, I research it to the hilt. I read, like, I've read probably 26 books on Frank Sinatra. And I did that before I ever sang a single song that he recorded. So I research things and kind of get into the mind of the person that I'm emulating. And so, yeah, the first thing was kind of a happy accident.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Well, it is kind of a live recording. You never know what's going to happen. Yeah, for sure. So will we see more Furs in the future?
I think so. I've been actually revisiting a lot of that material, and it's too good. We've done a lot of work to put this stuff together, and COVID kind of messed a lot of things up, but I really truly think that we're going to pull the Furs project out when the players are free, because we're all playing in other bands. But it's a labor of love, and it's definitely something we truly enjoy to do.
Yeah, and I personally can attest it's an awesome show. I love it.
Well,
Fantastic.
I'll have to let you know the next time.
Oh, we'll keep an eye out.
I'll let you know the next time we're doing it. Sorry,
John's
I didn't mean to
falling
destroy your equipment.
He's falling all over the floor.
Help me!
Wow. Yeah. So, that's the Furs wasn't that long ago. It's right before COVID, right? Am I thinking right? Yeah, I think you were saying 2000.
I think the last show we did was probably about 5 years ago.
You've got a lot going on. There's always a lot going on with you. And how do you keep it all straight? Do you do one at a time, or do you arrange your time accordingly?
I'm pretty good at managing things. I more than likely, if I'm doing a project, I have a book specifically dedicated to that project. And so all the lyrics, all the music, all the whatever is in one thing. And in my head, I'm not really quite sure how, but I keep things separated, and it's like a file system, and you just kind of pull out that file for when you need it and then put it away. So it's not as confusing as it seems like it would be, but some things are more complex than others. So like I have a project I'm working on right now that does all Frank Zappa music, and that involves getting charts written, and and you have to hire musicians that can kill, and so that's a little more involved than, say, putting a pop band together or something like that.
Yeah, the material is definitely more complex.
You're telling me.
Oh, man. So do you this is kind of probably an unfair question, but do you favor percussion and playing a kit over fronting a band, or where's your? I know your original love is the drums, what you were saying earlier, but fronting a band's a completely different experience. I mean, do you favor one over the other?
No, they both have their merits. I played drums for years and years, and actually started thinking about singing even before I was diagnosed with MS. Once I was diagnosed, then I really wanted to pursue singing because I thought that if my drumming ability was taken away from me, they could at least prop me up on a stool and I could hold a microphone and sing. And so that's when I really started getting serious about singing. And I honestly thought by now that would have occurred, but by the grace of God, I'm still functioning as a drummer, so I do both.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's wonderful, and it's a blessing.
It is. It's definitely a blessing.
So before we started today, Jon came to me with two pieces of paper. One is printed in black and white, and the other piece of paper is printed in red ink on white background. And I was like, Jon, what's the story with this paper? I mean, this is an interesting situation. And he said, well, I'm going to explain it to you on the podcast. And I'm game. I'm going to let Jon explain to me what's going on here, and hopefully, we can follow along with his description.
This is kind of a little like a science experiment. I have a list of 10 panels with 10 movie titles on each panel. The first page, they're going to be in black and white. And I'm going to have Len pick a movie title that he likes and not tell me what it is. And when he has one picked, let me know. Have you picked one yet?
No.
Well, go ahead and look at it and pick one.
Any rhyme or reason why I want to pick a movie? I mean, just a title that I'm familiar with, or
whatever title appeals to you. There's 100 titles on the page.
Okay, like, I love all these movies.
Yeah, they're good movie titles.
Okay, I am, and I have no idea where this is going, so this is going to be fun. But I picked one.
Okay. All right. So I don't want you to point to the page because I don't want you to think I'm trying to trick you into pointing to your choice. So I'm just going to run my finger across the page, and you tell me when I'm over the panel that you picked one from.
And each panel has how many on it?
Each panel has 10 titles. There are 10 panels. There are 100 titles on the page.
Okay. So when your finger goes over, excuse me, the panel.
Just tell me when to stop.
I gotcha.
So
you're going across. Stop.
This one here?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that's the black and white. Now I'm going to have you look at the same titles in a different order in red and see if you can find your movie title, and then we'll do the same thing. I'll point and you tell me when to stop.
Okay, so this is the same list of movies?
This exact same list in different order in red. And what I'm doing is having your brain perceive this information in two different ways, and I'm going to try to discern what you're thinking.
What I'm thinking?
Yes.
You're going to read my mind.
I am.
Oh my gosh. Dude, you're freaking me out.
Have you found it yet?
No, it's in a different order.
Yeah.
Which means is it on the same panel or a different panel, or is it the
different
whole
panel?
point?
Probably.
Okay, I got it.
You found it? Okay.
Yep. So you're gonna do the same thing with your finger across the panels, and I'm supposed to tell you when. Stop.
Stop? In that one?
It's on that panel.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
And you told me that I could ask you one question.
Well, I'm not making the rules, mister.
Okay, well, that was what we agreed upon, I thought.
You would ask, yeah.
Do I get to ask one question or no questions?
You can ask. You're making the rules up. I mean, I'm agreeable to whatever you want to do.
Okay,
here.
I'm going to ask you a question, and this whole time I want you to concentrate on the title and like scream it in your brain, but don't actually say. So let me
That can't be the question you're going to ask, right?
Let me ask you this: Is this movie in black and white or color?
It's a color movie.
It's a color movie. Okay, so it's more recent. Okay, concentrate on the title. For some reason, I'm getting an image of Sharon Stone. Is the movie Unforgiven?
The movie is Unforgiven. But Sharon Stone is not in that movie.
She's not?
No.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, man.
I mean, from time to time, I think about Sharon Stone in ways I don't want to talk about. But the thing is, that was the movie.
Okay.
That I had in my mind. No one on this no one listening is gonna believe me. But
that wasn't arranged, right?
No,
we didn't arrange this before.
No,
okay.
No, but you told me there's something with these panels, and that you could either ask no question or one question. I do remember talking about that. I'm like, well, you make up the rule. I don't care.
That's cool.
But
I got the right title.
But why Sharon Stone? Sharon Stone wasn't in The Unforgiven.
I thought she was for some reason.
How did you do that?
I don't know. I don't know, because I swear I had an image of Sharon Stone in my head. Oh, well. At least I got the movie right.
You got the movie right. It's freaking me out that you were able to get that.
Well,
and this was not prearranged.
No, it was not.
We
did not plan this.
Look, I've always admired you, John. but this has taken things to new heights. in you know, my admiration of you. What is going on with this?
Well, I think we're just having fun.
That's awesome. I'm like floored.
Well, we'll do another thing later.
It's just amazing you're able to do that.
Well, I wanted to do something different in your podcast. I don't think anybody else is going to read your mind.
Oh, you'd be surprised. People read my mind all the
Got
time.
the glass head.
You'd have to ask Beth. she and I are pretty well, you know, she can read my mind.
Yeah. Well, she's a perceptive, smart lady, too, so.
Very much so.
That helps.
Scary smart. I'm easy to read, apparently. Wow. Yeah. Good stuff, man. That was fun. That was good. You know any card tricks?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, jeez. So, you know, what about, do you like magic and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. I grew up doing magic.
Okay, I didn't know
In fact, when I was really young, I did magic, and I started getting into music and girls, and I thought, you know, I'd probably have a lot better opportunities if I played music than if I was a magician. So I kind of shifted my focus to music.
Well, the girls are different too, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. But I've done magic all my life, and I do a lot of close-up stuff for adults. And then I've also developed a couple things. There's a program I developed, I spent 5 years working on, called The Magic of Books. And it's a 45-minute magic show that each effect is correlated to at least one award-winning children's book. And so I do a lot of shows at schools, libraries, things like that. And it's really great because the kids have fun, but they're also learning about books that would be good for them to read as well. And then the older kids, they want to do things. So then I developed a birthday magic class where, you know, if the kid's having his birthday, he invites all of his friends over. I do a short magic show for them, and then I hand out the supplies and teach the kids to do all the tricks that I just showed them. And then they leave with the supplies so they can keep doing it. And hopefully maybe that'll perpetuate some young kids to be magicians later. It's a dying art.
Is it really?
It is.
I can say I can't really name like a latest magician, one that I've seen or that I would recognize the name. So it's now that you point that out. Good for you for being a part of that. Awesome. Any other projects that you maybe bringing to the forefront of what you think of perhaps now performing, that you depend on, to source of inspiration, or how you feel when you're on the stage today?
Well, every experience puts another element to the pile, and everything I've done I've learned from. And so working with people, I worked with Joe Harvard from Boston. He taught me a lot about rehearsals. He taught me a lot about the recording process. He owned Fort Apache Studio in Boston when he lived there, and so he was pretty knowledgeable, and definitely a person I learned a lot from. When I played with the guys in Fusion and Desperately Seeking Fusion, that was another great learning experience for me. I learned how to learn songs quickly, and I learned a lot about performance sensibilities from those guys. They're all excellent players, and they kind of rubbed off on me. Who else? I would say working with Ronald Cole was an absolute music education. Ronald was he was an amazing presence on stage, and watching somebody closely do that over and over again, you learn a little bit from them. And part of my sensibilities of being a front man have been culled from Ronald's performances, because he was just dynamic. And so definitely Ronald Cole. I've learned a lot from Bob Sauls. I've learned a lot from him about songwriting in general. Bob gives me the liberty to play whatever I want to play, and so rather than just going apeshit through every song, I have a lot of restraint to not do that, and so that's been a wonderful learning environment.
So less is more sometimes with the kid.
Absolutely.
Right. And in that particular project, I respect, your approach there because of what's going on with the three of you, right?
Right.
And you fill that space with your own syncopated rhythms and components, right? The kit is not overworked, the guitar is not overworked, and his voice is just kind of carrying that whole cadence.
You want to serve the song.
Yeah.
You don't want to serve yourself. If you're a selfish musician, that comes out in your playing, and your job is really to complement all the people that you're working with, not make what you're doing stand out and go, look at me. It's just not what it's about. And
I totally agree with you.
There's a lot of cats out there that think it is.
Yeah.
And I've gone to shows and watched these guys pull out every bump and grind that they know, and they think that that's like cool and that's what they're supposed to do, and that makes them look good, but it really doesn't. It makes them sound busy and obtrusive, and I just can't work that way.
I understand. I get you. Yeah, and Bob Sauls is so pure. It's such a pure presentation of what's going on there. And I just love that you've been involved in that for 15 years now, right?
15 years, or probably more if I think about it. But he's brilliant. He is. He's one of the best songwriters that I've encountered and been able to work with ever. Consistently, the things that he comes up with is just wonderful.
It's fantastic. And so Bob Saul's project, his band, is playing soon in Clintonville, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're doing a street party that would be Sunday from 6 to 8 at 371 East Torrance Road in Clintonville. And this was a development of COVID. These people in this neighborhood decided we're tired of not having entertainment, and so they hired bands, had them set up in the island in the middle of the street, and the whole neighborhood just brings lawn chairs and blankets, and they sit and listen to the bands. So they're still doing that even though COVID is over, because they really enjoyed the energy, I guess.
For sure. Excuse me, for sure. And you're also at Dick's Den pretty frequently.
As often as possible. They can't get rid of me now.
Why not?
Why not? That place has been there forever.
It has. And what was the place across the street?
Stashes.
Yes. Okay. What's it called now?
Quickie Mart.
Okay, it's Quickie Mart.
Yeah.
No, so Stashes is the day, right? That's where Ron Cole played.
Oh yeah, he kind of came up there with the Trillionaires.
Yeah,
because he was playing like Mr. Brown's, Stashes, the first Stashes, Stash and Little Brothers, not Little Brothers.
Yep.
And then he just started blowing up. I mean, the Trillionaires were playing with Adam Ant and NXS and all the bands du jour. Ronald was playing with all of them. I mean, he started out in the small clubs.
Yeah, and quite an influence on you, as you had mentioned,
in a major way.
Yeah.
I think it was Ronald that taught me to stop thinking about things. Just do it. There was a song that he wanted me to play a walking four beat on the bass drum all throughout the song. And I told him, I said, that's kind of hokey. It's like disco. It's not going to work. And he said, just try it, And I tried it, and I was like, wow, I'll be damned if that doesn't fit the song perfectly. So he taught me to just do, not overthink things and get wrapped up in worried about what's going to happen or what you're going to do, and just do it.
Yeah, and good for you for being a good collaborator and trying it, right? You tried it.
I think the older I get, the more willing I am to listen to other people's point of view and see what it is that they're trying to share with me. Because, the old saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I find that more often than not, if somebody's sharing something with me, it's worth me listening to, and I'm probably going to get something out of it.
Good for you. That's awesome, and that's good advice for everyone involved, mister. So do you have any other bizarre tricks up your sleeve for this evening?
No, I just wanted to do one. I wanted to do something unusual that nobody else on this podcast would ever be doing.
You're freaking me out with that thing, man. but the Sharon Stone, I don't like. It's no relation.
I know. I don't understand why
But you came up with the name. I don't get get it.
Ultimately, that's all that matters.
Well, yeah, you win. I'm not going to sleep tonight, man. Wow. Anything else you want to share about your wonderful life in Columbus, Ohio, music-based ventures? You traveled the United States of America. What's the funniest thing that happened on the road, Jon?
The funniest thing?
Tell us a funny story, man.
Oh God!
I mean, we heard about the mice in Southern Ohio.
There's a lot of stories. I was in New York, and we were during the day. Somebody from the city was showing us around, and so we were walking past this area, and he pointed out that is the chapter headquarters of the Hells Angels here in New York. And I was like, you're kidding me. I got to have my picture taken in front of the Hells Angels chapter house. And so I went up on the steps, and my friend had his camera, and this guy, this mountain with a leather vest, came out of the door, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And we said, "Oh, we're just taking a picture real quick, and we'll be out of here." And he goes, no pictures." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "No pictures." And I'm starting to argue with him, and my friends are going, "Jon, shut the fuck up. Let's get going." And he just looked at me and he goes, "You're not taking any pictures. You're leaving now." And I was like, "All right." So we left, and then I found out later that like that is totally taboo. They don't want pictures taken. They don't want anybody to, do anything that chronicles any members of their organization.
And you had to pick a fight with the guy.
I wasn't going to fight with him, but I was certainly trying to argue my point. But my friends were worried about my health, so.
They're tough people.
He was a big dude, too.
I don't doubt it.
He was like 2 of me.
I don't doubt it.
So that's one of the funniest things that happened.